Yo, buenos dias, people. Good morning. So, decided to make this video, and this video is basically to answer some common questions that I get a lot. As you guys know, I'm a traveler, and I'm currently on 60 countries and aiming for at least 100. That's my goal. I don't think I'll ever do all the countries in the world, but if I could do 100, I think I'll be pretty happy and I might sit down after that. But anyway, so I'm going to answer 7 questions. Okay, I've been given these common questions by people a lot. These are reoccurring questions that I get asked all the time, and I'm going to answer 7 today. So please stay with me, stay to the end of the video, and I will answer these questions as best as I can. So, question number 1. Why do you travel? I get asked this all the time. Why do I travel? For me, I've always had a natural curiosity for things. You know, I always have this sort of, I need to know what's on the other side. I need to know why people live the way they do, what they eat, where they sleep. Everywhere you go is different. The way people live in one country is not the way they live in another country. Norms are completely different. Example, something that blew my mind. Like, how in the UK, when it gets too hot in the house, you open the window, to let some air in and stuff like that. Like in the summer. Well, in Dubai, I had an experience of the total opposite, where I was staying in a hostel, and in Dubai and most of the UAE, the buildings are pumped full of air conditioning throughout. It's like a central air system. And the place I was staying, it was jacked up really high. Like, it was chilly at night. Like, at nighttime, I was cold in this dormitory here trying to get some sleep, and the blanket wasn't that thick, bit of a thin blanket. And I said to one of the guys, I said, I'm freezing, man. What do I do? Is there an air conditioning control? He said, no, it's all central air. It's all throughout the building. It's constant, day and night, 24/7. And he said, oh, well, if you want to get a little bit warm, open the window. I'm like, eh? He said, yeah, open the window. That's what we do. I'm like, no way. And I did exactly that. I opened the window, and the warm air from outside started coming in and heating the room up. That was crazy, And, because in Dubai, it's hot day and night. Doesn't matter what time it is. It's always like a minimum of about 28, 29 degrees going up into the 40s. So, yeah, it was amazing. That blew my mind. And that's just one of the little nuances that I got from traveling, It's little things like that. Plus, I also love the buzz and the feeling of when you land in a new country. It's amazing. When you land in a new country and you look out the window and you can see you're on the tarmac and you're looking at the airport and what's surrounding, And then when you get off the plane, the first thing I do as a habit when I'm getting off a plane, especially if it's one where you're coming down the stairs and not going through the tunnel. If it's going through the tunnel, then I'll probably have to wait until I get through customs and leave the airport. But I take a big sniff, like I just literally, I take in the air, because every country, most countries have got a different air and a different aroma, And I do that, like when you land in Africa, the air is different. When you land in Asia, the air is different. And for me, that's exciting. One other thing that fascinates me about new countries when I go to them is supermarkets. I can't get enough of supermarkets or convenience stores in different countries, because everywhere you go, everyone's got to eat. And a lot of the things we eat are very similar. We drink soft drinks, we eat chocolate, we eat crisps, we eat stuff like that. But everywhere you go, they have different products and different flavors and different brands. And for me, it's just kind of those little things make it interesting, because you'll see something in one country that you've never seen before and you won't see it in another country. Or it could even be a case of, like in this country, you have Fanta Orange, but you go to a lot of parts of Africa, they have Fanta Pineapple, which they don't have in this country. I've not seen it in Europe. But in Africa, pineapple Fanta is common as anything. Stuff like that, little things. And that's basically why I travel, just to get a new perspective and to learn about myself and about others, about why we are the way we are. Anyway, that is why I travel. So, question number 2. How do you afford it? I get asked that all the time. And when I used to go places, I used to, put pictures on Facebook and photographs, and people used to put comments such as, "Oh, have you won the lottery?" or stuff like that, and which is stupid, really. I actually found that comment, it's amusing, but it's slightly insulting in a way. When somebody says, "Oh, did you win the lottery?" It's like, especially like maybe from old classmates or whatever, ones you didn't even get along with. But in my opinion, when that's like denying my ability to make my own money and to fund myself. That's like saying, "Oh, well, he probably had to win the lottery or something to get anywhere." That's dumb. Anyway, I'm digressing, yeah? So how do I afford it? Basically the same way that everyone else could or should be able to afford it. You work sometimes and you save. Like, I live very frugally. I don't spend a lot of money when I'm at home. But I don't go without. I eat very well. I eat healthy. I live in an all right place. But I make the best of my funds from what I get. I cook a lot. I cook all the time. I love to cook. And cooking is actually really cheap. You lot should try it sometimes. I'm not talking about ready meals. I'm talking about just cooking from scratch, basics. But thank God, I've been blessed with 2 hands that are able to cook. Runs in my DNA. My dad was a chef. My dad was a really good top-end chef, so it must run in the family. But basically, I save what I can. And then when I go traveling, I budget. And to be honest, travel is not that expensive like people think. Yeah, you can go on some package deal, or you go on some big fancy high-end, holiday to Dubai or Bangkok or, place like that. I hear a lot of people say, yeah, I've been traveling, I've been doing this. Yeah, I stay in this 5-star hotel and all that. That doesn't interest me. I can't think of anything more mind-numbing than that, to be honest. Like, I go to hit the streets. I go to literally take in the life, I don't need to stay in some fancy room. I really don't. Like, for example, Europe, for most of Eastern Europe and even some parts of Southern Europe, you can get a hostel for between 10 and 20 euros a night. Between that spectrum. Like Eastern Europe, closer to 10 euros a night. In more like Southern, like Italy, Spain, Portugal, you're looking more towards like the 20 mark. And Northern Europe, say like, France, Germany, the UK, you're looking sort of, in between the 20 to 25, if that makes sense. Asia, it's insanely cheap. I had a hostel in Ho Chi Minh once. I was paying $2 a night. $2 a night, and it was nice. This wasn't even a dive. This was nice. It was the hostel, like 8 beds in it, spaced out nicely, decent people. Had a balcony. I used to sit on that balcony, eat my breakfast every morning. $2 a night, I think the most expensive hostel I've ever stayed in for one night, the most I've ever paid for one night in a hostel, I believe I think it was in Toronto. yeah, it was in Toronto, Canada. I paid 40 Canadian dollars for the night, which was like 26 pounds, something like that. But, still, to be in Canada, yeah, that's nothing. That's really nothing. So, yeah, how do I afford it? I save, I budget, I write things down a lot, and, I weigh it up. I also weigh up how to get cheap flights, and, I travel light. I don't take luggage anymore. I take a backpack with all the essentials in it, like, you know, like 3 changes of clothes, toothpaste, toiletries, little things like that. Some medications, necessary things. Like, because you'll find that a lot of things you can buy in the countries you're going to anyway. I mean, it always helps to take little creature comforts, though, like little foods or something you miss, especially if you go into an unfamiliar place. It can kind of just, it settles your mind down a bit. But yeah, that's how I afford it. So yeah, do your research and you'll find that traveling is really not expensive at all. You just need to be a bit flexible. So question number 3. Have you ever felt unsafe at any time? And I will say there's 2 instances that really stick out in my head that I can recall. I mean, I've had a few hairy experiences here and there as well, but not ones where I felt really sort of, oh God, what have I got myself into? Only 2. And the first one, I'll say, it was in Sofia, Bulgaria, weirdly enough. I'm not saying that Bulgaria is unsafe, but just that instance I felt unsafe. Where basically I'd flown in, it was evening, I got out the airport and into the downtown by metro, and by the time I arrived downtown, I'm looking for my hostel. It was close to about 6 o'clock at night. It was getting a bit dark. And everything's in Russian, well, Cyrillic, not Russian, Russian letters, yeah, all the street signs are in Russian letters, and I've got no Wi-Fi, no data, so I'm just following, like, what map I could use and just, like, notes and places to get to where I need to, and I'm a bit lost. And with a lot of ex-Soviet and Eastern European countries, people tend to drink outside, and I mean really drink outside. You'll see guys on street corners just getting wrecked. And it's getting dark. I'm in an unfamiliar place. I don't speak the language. I can't even barely read the language. And I'm seeing people just coming out of everywhere, out of the woodworks in the street. I'm just walking this unfamiliar street in downtown Sofia. And I think, oh my God, I've got everything I own is on me. My backpack, my other backpack, my wallet, everything I own is on me, because I was in transit. I was only there for a night before going on to another place. And yeah, I felt generally unsafe because, people when they're drunk, they're unpredictable. And I think, oh God, what's going to happen? And, like Bulgaria is not one of the richest countries in the world neither. So I felt very vulnerable at that point, but I thank God, like I managed to find my hostel. I went into what was basically an off license, which sounded counterintuitive, but I did. I went to an off license, and luckily, well, actually not even luckily, it turns out that a lot of Bulgarians speak pretty good English. I just didn't know at the time, but I went in and I managed to ask the guy, and in pretty good English, he basically says, oh yeah, you need to go this way, this way, this way. And he helped me find my hostel, which just happened to be about 100 meters down the road. Oh, big sigh of relief. I mean, you have no idea how relieved I was just to get checked in and just be somewhere. And that was one instance where I felt quite unsafe and vulnerable. My second one that sticks out was not too distant ago. It was in Bogota, and the same thing, actually. It was the same kind of situation. I was arriving into Bogota and my flight had been delayed for about 3 hours, so instead of arriving in the evening, I ended up arriving at just after midnight. So I thought, oh, no big deal. You know, I had a hotel booked, everything like that. I got through immigration and customs by about 1 a.m. So I booked an Uber, looked for my Uber driver, finally found him, and then he drove me downtown into Bogota. You know, I've never been in Colombia before, and Bogota has got, you know, that reputation. It has got, you know, pretty scary reputation for a city, actually. You know, it's South America, ain't it? So I got to the street where my hotel is supposedly meant to be at. But this hotel was one of these kind of, it wasn't like a big chain hotel, it was more like a converted house that had been made into a hotel, if that makes sense. So I stop outside what looks like it could be. The guy himself's not even sure, like, you know, the address and all that. And I'm sort of Googling pictures online of what this hotel should look like from the outside. And I'm like, no, that's definitely it. But it was like, it looked like everyone had gone to bed, like no lights on, no nothing. And I think, oh my God, what do I do? You know, I can't be in the street at this time of night. It was 2 a.m. The street was like dark as hell, deserted, except for a few like, you know, shady characters you could just see in the distance wandering around. There were, you know, and I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm trying to find the number of this place and ring them. Except, you know, I've got no, you know, I've got no SIM card for Colombia. So I'm trying my best. I managed to get the driver to actually call the hotel. Because first I think, oh my God, do not leave me here. Like the guy's sort of looking and look at his watch as if like, sort of, you know, I want to get going now. And luckily the lady did pick up, and at first, like, you know, she didn't understand what I was trying to say, and I'm like, look, I'm outside. And eventually she realized what I meant, and then she came to the gate and unlocked the gate. And then I paid the guy, the Uber driver, the money, and I'm like, I even give him a bit of a tip as well for waiting with me, because I was panicked. I'm thinking, if you leave me here, middle of the street, I got, yeah, same thing, got my bags, got my wallet, my phone, everything's with me, you know. But, you know, it's Bogota. You could get robbed in broad daylight, let alone nighttime. You can get robbed in broad daylight in the street in Bogota, and nobody's going to do nothing. You know, the police are next to useless. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get stripped naked here if I don't get into somewhere, you know. But both times, you know, like I said, at the time I felt really like something bad's going to happen, but thank God it didn't, you know. Like, it was probably more in my head. I mean, the situation was real, but I probably blew it up a lot more in my head. So those are the two times that stand out to me where I did feel quite unsafe and vulnerable. Okay, so question number 4, what I've been asked. After all of these countries you've been to, and I've been to like 60 so far, but even before that, you know, sort of after all the countries I've been to prior and, you know, countries along the way, do I still get surprised or impressed when I go to a place? Or is it just like, you know, sort of just run of the mill, you know, it's just same thing, different day? And I'll say, yeah, there have been a few places where I've landed into them and they've impressed me a lot more than I thought they would, or I felt really like, wow, I'm here. One place was Tokyo. Like, I always wanted to go to Tokyo, but I'd always put it off. And, you know, I'd been living in Asia for quite a while anyway. So, you know, living in Asia, you've got everything around you anyway, and you're already sort of busy in that. And I'd already been to Seoul in Korea as well. And mistakenly enough, I made the mistake of thinking that Tokyo was going to be just like Seoul, like just like Korea. You know, I had it in my head, you know, Korea, Japan, almost the same. Was I wrong? You know, I landed up into Tokyo, yeah. It was actually, I'd not even planned the trip to Tokyo. I went there to actually apply for a Thai visa so I could come back into Thailand because I was working there at that time. And I just used it as an excuse to go because I'd not been. But it wasn't planned, it was a last minute thing. So I land up there getting to Tokyo, and part of me was like, oh my god, it's gonna be expensive, especially compared to living in Thailand. And I thought, yeah, I just kill 6 days, do whatever, do what I have to do. So I land up there, and then I took the train from the airport into the city centre. And the train itself, normal train, kind of cool though. I mean, it was actually a funny thing that happened on the train. I was sat there, and there was some guy next to me, and he was like, he's what you'd call a salary man. In Japan, you get those people, yeah, they're just workers, but they dress smart, long black coat, shirt, tie, and he had a pretty stern face. I mean, the dude must have been about 55, 60, yeah, and he had his headphones in. And yeah, I glanced at him a couple of times. I think he glanced at me, and he had a really stern face. He looked really, and I'm like, oh, I ain't messing with him yet. And then he looked at me and he kind of smiled, and then he offered me a mint, one of those like mints in the thing. Yeah, I'm like, all right then. And then he pulled out one of his headphones, and he gave it to me. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what he's listening to then. This guy was listening to metal. Like, hardcore death metal, headbanging stuff. And I'm like, you wouldn't have ever expected it, this guy, yeah. You'd think he was like, because you'd think he was listening to like Buddhist chants or something, or, you know what I mean? But he was listening to like heavy death metal, proper, hardcore metal, I'm like, wow. Okay. And he just give me a kind of like smile, like, oh, you didn't expect that, did you? And that was cool, But anyway, when I got off the train, because, the metro's underground, yeah? So I come up onto street level, and I was staying in an area called Asakusa. And in Asakusa, you've got like the Sensoji Temple really close. You've got the, I think it's called the Sky Tower or the Sky Tree. I'll leave a comment below. But I was crossing a bridge over the river. Like, Tokyo's made up of loads of bridges, yeah? And it just hit me. I'm like, wow, I'm in Tokyo. And I'm just looking around, and it just hit me. The reality hit me, and I was impressed. I was in awe of it, because I'd not planned to go there, and for years I put it off, but it hit me. And to be honest, Tokyo was very impressive the whole trip. Like, every little thing, every minute detail fascinated me, I'm not gonna lie. And another place that's impressed me quite recently was actually Toronto in Canada. Why? Because it's so similar to London, but not. And it's like, I can't decide, is it more British or more American? It's got all the same American things, even the same American foods. The infrastructure's the same, even the cars are like, proper American cars, wide ones. But it's slightly more ordered, I feel. But it impressed me, and it's one of those places I could walk around day and night. It felt like a very safe city. It's understated, but at the same time, it holds its own, Like, I would definitely recommend going to Toronto. It's underrated, but at the same time, it holds its own as a city. It's really something. But that's two places that kind of impressed me, but I didn't think would impress me, if that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of places I've been where I'm just like, oh, wow. Like the Maldives was every bit as impressive as I thought it would be. Abu Dhabi, Singapore, like that. You expect to be impressed by those places because that's what they are. But other places where I thought, nah, whatever, I've been impressed, if that makes sense. So, question number 5. What's your favourite place or places? I get asked that all the time as well. And that's a very difficult one because I've been to a lot. But if I'm to single it out, the one place I always want to go back to and have lived there for on and off quite a few years, and also I keep going back to every time, is Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Like, it's my favourite city in the world, just about. Just about. I mean, there's a few close runner-ups, but Kuala Lumpur is my favourite. It's got everything. I mean, for a foodie, there's not a food that you can't find in Kuala Lumpur, and it's cheap. Like, stupidly cheap. You know, like pennies on the pound. You know, like when I lived there, I had a daily food budget of about £5 a day. £5 a day was around what? Just under 30 ringgit. You can eat for the full day on that. I'm not talking about fancy places, tourist places. You know, I'm talking about little, street vendors and, little, hole in the wall restaurants, stuff like that. But not just like bog standard food of every kind of cuisine, Chinese, Malay, Indian, Indonesian, some Arabic foods, the whole shebang. Even McDonald's had daily offers for like under like £2 kind of thing, So yeah, Malaysia, yeah, it's cheap. Like, for one, it's cheap. The weather's perfect all year round. It's not too hot, not too cold. Rent is cheap. It's a melting pot. Like, you've got everybody, every nationality you can imagine living there. You got Russians, Arabs, Indians, Chinese, Caucasian. You've got even Africans. You've got everybody in KL. There's not a single, like, what's that word? Demographic. There's not a single demographic that's not accounted for in Kuala Lumpur. You've got everybody there. And it's just a cool place. I can't think of a better city, to be honest. Okay, so question number 6. Is there anywhere you'd not go back or really disliked? That's a good one, actually. And yes, there's 2 places that stick out in my mind that I would just not go back, don't want to go back. Not now, not in the maybe in the future if things change, maybe I'd go back, but I wouldn't miss it. First place is Hong Kong. I know everyone's gonna pray, a load of people are gonna bash me on this, but I didn't like Hong Kong. For one, it's stupidly expensive. I live in London. It's stupidly expensive, more than here. Secondly, I find the quality of whatever's there isn't very good, because in Hong Kong, nothing's made there. Everything's imported either from China, Singapore, Malaysia, whatever, So it's like an artificial city just existing because of the fact that it was British at one point. It's overcrowded, and I mean densely overcrowded, like insanely overcrowded. Like, it's just people on top of people on top of people. And, in Hong Kong, you can't look forward because there's nothing to look forward. You look up, and even looking up, you can barely see the sky because of how many skyscrapers there are. It's just dense, which it's interesting, but it gets claustrophobic really fast, Also, I didn't find the people, like the locals, to be very friendly. I found everyone to be quite rude. I mean, most of the workers are actually mainland Chinese, but obviously you've got Hong Kongers as well. But I didn't find the service or the people to be very nice, to be honest. Like, you go in a 7-Eleven or a convenience store, and there's no please and thank you. It's literally like they take your money and practically throw your change at you. Like, get the F out of my shop kind of thing. It's not very nice. And the same thing with like eateries and stuff, like service, they just literally throw your plate on the table and go. Maybe it was just my experience, I don't know. I think the best food I had, the best experience I had, ironically, was the food in the bottom floor of Chungking Mansions. And anyone who's been, if you know, you know, in Hong Kong, Chungking Mansions, it's where you find all the budget hostels, all the cheap, all the cheap rooms, it's packed in like sardines. You have to wait 20 minutes for your turn just to use the lift to go up to your place because it's that crazy packed. But they had some really decent Indian, Pakistani food in there, and the price wasn't bad. I mean, for Hong Kong. So, yeah, I just didn't like Hong Kong, and I wouldn't go back. Not now, and especially with recent developments in the area as well. And that was one place. The second place, which a lot of people would be surprised, especially being that they go on holiday there a lot, and they pay quite a bit to go, was the Dominican Republic. It's a nice place, in theory. Nice surroundings, nice weather, nice nature, whatever. Even the food's not bad. But the people, I didn't enjoy it. I felt like I had a big bullseye on my back the whole time I was there. Like certain areas of Santo Domingo, I just felt paranoid as hell. I didn't even want to pull my phone out, which makes it very hard to do any filming, I did do quite a bit of filming, but I had to watch my back the whole time. There's only one area in Santo Domingo that I felt okay, and that was in the colonial zone. That was a nice couple of days. That wasn't too bad. But even then, the dealings with the locals, I felt like everybody was just sizing me up to see what they could eat from me. And you go into little local shops here where there's no prices on anything. They'll just dream up a price and charge you that. And it'll be vastly 2-3 times inflated. Crazy. So, and the same when I went to Boca Chica, which is the resort near the capital. That's like a bit of a beach resort town. And same thing, everyone's just on you, It's just, it's either they're over friendly because they want something, or they just treat you with disdain, And I just didn't like it there. The vibe was not good. The people, I just didn't like it. If I'm wrong, then leave a comment, tell me why I'm wrong, and whatever. But I didn't enjoy it. And I mean, I've traveled all over. I've been in Africa, been other parts of Latin America. I loved it. Colombia was great, which I expected it not to be, and it was. I've been Kenya, I've been Ethiopia. You do get hassled, don't get me wrong. But you also get a lot of good people. But in Dominican Republic, I just felt like everybody was just, I don't know, just on me for something, I just didn't feel comfortable there at all. I was glad to leave, in fact. But yeah, that's the two places I just wouldn't go back to, is Hong Kong and Dominican Republic. And that's it, really. So, final question I've got for today, question number 7. Where do you see yourself in the future? What do you see yourself doing? That's a good question. For one, I want to grow this channel. I want to get this channel a lot bigger and get a lot more subscribers. So please subscribe. Just a bit of a hint. And I want to do something with tourism. Like, I've got the ambition to open a hostel. I just don't know where yet. So, I'm toying with the idea of a few countries. I just need to see how viable it is, because I enjoy interacting with people. I like helping people, especially travelers. So I think a hostel would be the ideal business for me, because, one, it's a place for me to live. 2, I can make money, by accommodating people, and I can also, I'll meet all different nationalities, get new ideas. Hostels are amazing places. Like, if you've never stayed in a hostel, you should. Go try it. They're pretty cool places. You can make lifelong friends in there. Like my travel to Latin America, and the guy I've been filming with, I met him in a hostel in Kosovo, of all places. And, we maintained this friendship over more than a year now. So yeah, for me, the hostel seems like the natural kind of business that would be ideal for me. Or I've always wanted to open a restaurant. Not not a fancy restaurant, just an eatery of sorts, because I love cooking. And I'm always picking up recipes. I'm the kind of cook where if I see something made once or twice, I can pretty much do it myself. And I'd like to open a place, not too high end, just something that serves good food, you know? And that's kind of where I want to see myself in the future. And settle down, find someone, because I'm still single at the moment. And I also want to be around my son a lot more. I've not seen him in a while. I'm always in contact with him daily through WhatsApp or whatever. But I want to be in a position where I can, see him on a daily basis, which, could happen if I also do this hostel business. So that's kind of where I do see myself in the future. And of course, this channel, I'm really trying to grow this channel. So, just another hint, please subscribe, please like, please share it to your friends and get their friends to share it to their friends. So, yeah, that's where I see the future going, inshallah. Anyway, this is me for tonight or this morning. So, yeah, please hit the like button, please subscribe. And if you have any more questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything. Feel free. Anyway, thank you and good morning, good night, wherever you are.